Here we go, day two. Good day one. Looking forward to day two. There were good meetings today. Good meetings last night. Got to improve our game, and we're gonna go today. What do you got? Good to see you, Richard.
So it's a high tempo practice?
Yeah. Football.
Your impressions of the first day?
Good retention from OTAs, I thought. Not too many mental mistakes. As always, there's things that we have to improve on, but I thought that the attention to detail was where it needed to be day one.
With a guy like Yelda, when he came in last year, there was a lot of people like, well, he's only played a few games. What was it that you guys saw that made you say, this guy can be our guy?
Personal character, football character, the type of teammate that he is, the work that he puts into being a pro and a good player. We all felt like, and we had some inside intel with Drew being there and Iz being there and Evan, Marcus being there with him. They all jumped on the table and said, this guy is going to do that. All he needs to do is play. And that's what Yelda's done.
Hey, Coach, you got fans today. Would you anticipate
Love
a little
it.
bit? You got some fans out there today. You
Yeah.
anticipate a little bump in the excitement from the
Yeah, our guys, I think maybe nobody more than me loves when the fans are out there. You know, they give you energy and juice, man, you know. So we look forward to having people out here as much as we can. And, you know, it's kind of a precursor to when our home opener, I know it's going to be loud and it's going to be a home field advantage for us. So got good fans here, and we got to put on a show for them.
You talked about the retention. Did you give them everything in OTAs or?
A lot of it, yeah. You can set OTAs up, training camp up, a lot of different ways to do it. How we kind of decided to do it, what I talked about yesterday, kind of as it was just, you know, it's not seamless because there is a huge break. But we kind of put a lot of things in OTAs and say, hey, like what's in now, we're going to retouch on it and reteach it and revisit it, but you're expected to know it. So that's how we kind of did it. So it was more, I don't want to say install because there is an install, but we do it like when we get to training camp, let's play football. So here's the menu on defense, here's the menu on offense, call it up. That's how we kind of do it. I feel like it just, I think it helps the play callers. Being in that seat before, we always did it like that. I felt like it helped me a lot. And I think it puts the onus on the players. They can't study a script because that's not real football. You know what I mean? So now there is some of, hey, this is what's getting called. You don't have to worry about these calls, you know, today. So, and everybody's a little bit different how they study and learn that and get themselves ready to practice and get themselves ready to play. But we just do it a little more game-like-ish, just how we decided to set it up.
Where and how does it help Kyler and Yelda being together for a second?
Just knowing each other. I think, you know, I think both vice versa, they know what each other's thinking, you know, and then the communication standpoint to communicate very quickly, effectively. When Yelda does something, Kyler understands the why behind it. And then when Kyler trumps him, Yelda understands the why behind it, which is what you want. You know what I mean? So they have a really good relationship. You can ask both of them about it, but they're very comfortable with one another, and I think it's just going to get better and better and better.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, it seems like a lot of guys, Kyler was working out with guys on their own. How much does that help when it comes to camp, where the guys are like already on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it helps. You know what I mean? Just from a connected camaraderie standpoint, that's one thing. And then, you know, the rhythm and timing of everything, they're out there working on their own. So rules are the rules. You got to go on break. I honestly think it's awesome what they did this offseason, you know, for the guys who coordinated that. You know, Kyler obviously being the lead guy on that. And they had some fun, too. I asked them what they do when they weren't on the field, you know, and they had some fun. So that's always good for those guys to see and get a little break and get away. But, you know, go to dinner together, have a little fun together, but put in the work together, too. They know what's at stake.
You guys have had a few over OTAs and through yesterday, you've had a little bit of time to work on the new kickoff stuff. Like, do you get a sense of that yet with your team, or are you not?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we put on pads, we're going to get a little bit better sense. But, yeah, we've already made some adjustments. Jeff and Sam have done a great job. Like I said, as far as studying it, looking at it some more. You guys would be bored to death looking at it some more. and making sure that we're on point, because there's a lot of different ways you can play that play. And we want to be versed on all of them and practice it the right way. And that's a new play. How do you practice that play, you know? So I think with pads on, we're doing a couple things unique in practice as we get going to make sure we're on point with that stuff. And then preseason, I'm sure we're going to have to make adjustments too going into week 1. So look forward to the maturation of that play. And we have to make it both the return unit and the coverage unit. We have to make that an advantage for us, and I believe we will.
You bring in a rookie class. Do you identify certain vets and say, hey, we want you to mentor or take this rookie under his wing, or do you just kind of let those relationships develop organically?
Yeah, I think honestly they develop organically when you have vets that are team first guys like we do. That happens organically, so I'm really not worried about that.
You mentioned yesterday that you tweak things from year to year. Nick talked about keeping it simple in year 1. Is year 2 the point where you can completely open up the playbook, because there's still
Well, you know, that's in the eye of the beholder. I would argue with Nick that we, you know, weren't simple year 1 in a good way. So, but it's kind of a joke. Thanks, guys. Come on, Bob. Come on, Bob. Come on. Wake up, Bob. No, I think that we did what we felt we needed to do to try to win, and then it goes into, okay, let's try to tweak it, make it a little bit better. What are we going to need that we wish we had, that we didn't call? You know, there's always kind of a maturation from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. You always keep learning and growing and figuring things out. And then I think the most important part is not what the coaches decided, here's what we want to do, this is what's good, this is what worked, this is what we need to improve on. These new players that we have, rookies and free agents, what do they do? What are they comfortable with? What skill sets do they have? That's the stuff we need to call, and that's what Nick and the staff will do.
You mentioned yesterday not being able to pencil in 53 guys right now with all the competition. I know it's early, but do you anticipate that there could be a tough decision in terms of keeping 2 or 3 quarterbacks?
Yeah, absolutely, Howard. I mean, and just not that you can't look at it like in a glass vacuum. Great word, Howard. In a glass vacuum. I was going to say glass jar. In a vacuum, right? You're smarter than I am. Don't think as quick. You can't look at it as in a vacuum because that impacts everything else. You know what I mean? So that's why, you know, Monty has a great way to say, when you guys talk to Monty next, it made so much sense to me how he says it, but it's basically that. Like, that decision, you think if that's, oh, well, we're going to keep, you know, 3 or 4 here, or 2 or 3 there, or 6 or 7 there, there's a trickle-down effect to the entire roster that affects. So, in essence, and that's why we talked about competing for your role. Okay, so I'm a DB, and I'm competing versus these other DBs, right? I'm also competing against that receiver, that tight end, that back, because what do you do on game day? You see what I'm saying? So all 3 phases apply to that, and it's not it's a reality of the NFL. Like, our guys know that. It kind of sounds harsh as I just said that, but it's the reality. So a lot of those decisions are made not just, you know, with each group, it's the entire team. So, and you guys know we're always going to make what we think is the best decision for the team. That's a good question.
Did you guys start talking about the 53, or is it something you wait?
Every day, Josh. Every day.
When I know you guys really like the versatility of Darius, but with his pass rushing in particular, did he take a jump last year in college, or was it just something that he's always had?
Take a jump from like his junior to senior year in college? Or
did you see that his pass rushing?
Yeah, I would say without having pads on, I'm going to hold my thought on that. But yeah, he's what he showed on tape in college, he showed that he can do here in OTAs, and he knows what he needs to work on, and he knows what works for him. And that's just like Marvin with the releases. That's going to be rookies. It's a continuous development, daily development every day of figuring that out as we go with themselves and the coaches. And he'll know what to do week 1. I know that.
The way you guys structure camp with the high and low days early on like this, is that something you kind of have to coach guys into a little bit, or do they know it's kind of a marathon now?
Yeah, we have not a marathon because there's not too many, but we set up camp with, you know, the 3 things in mind that I talked about, right? Health, development, evaluation. And, you know, those days like yesterday, just because it's not fast, that's a critical day for everybody. Today, we happen to go fast today, so this is obviously a critical day for everybody too. But they understand what's being looked at from an evaluation standpoint in the different days, and they understand the value of the different days as it relates to themselves and the unit and the team. And then they understand what's expected, our standard operating procedure of what I want to see, what the coaches want to see on the field, what we're looking to get out of it. Because if something gets out of whack, then all of a sudden it's like, well, this isn't what we really want, and it's kind of a wasted rep or a wasted period or even a wasted day. So we don't want that. You can't waste a minute. So our guys, here's what I know about our guys. When you bring it to their attention and you talk in black and white, they respond how you want them to respond. So as long as they keep doing that, we'll be in good shape.
Coach, how much more important now is every single rep for a guy now that you're in training camp?
I think every rep's important. You know, I mean, every rep is a learning experience for them. You know, all the different calls that we have, all the different things, playing different techniques, all that stuff. Like you gotta maximize your reps, and their goal, because there's not a lot to go around right now. I mean, you know, there's time constraints with practice. You know what I mean? We can't be out there for 4 hours a day. So there's a finite amount of reps that when they get in the game and we're playing O versus D, they have to maximize those reps. They're gold.
Dennis was on Arizona Sports earlier and mentioned that the biggest jump he's seeing from the defense is everybody's working as one. From a coaching staff, are you already kind of seeing that take hold?
Yeah, I would think that, you know, after year one, you know, everything that goes into year one and then going into year two, I think what he's probably talking about, he starts to see a little bit of continuity with what's going on. And we're very big on, you know, it's just our opinion. Dennis knows what the safety's supposed to be doing in a lot of calls, you know what I mean? And he's obviously one of our smarter players. But what I mean by that is there's a level of accountability within the room. Hey, man, like we talked about this, you need to do that. And even with our mode of play, motor and violence, there's a high level of accountability between the entire room. So when he sees it working like it should work, that's what he's probably alluding to.
To Max yesterday, Max Melton, and he said he seemed very aware of who he is, very comfortable.
He is very self-aware.
Very self-aware. Do you like seeing that in a young guy, and how can you
Yeah.
help him on that?
100%. His self-awareness oozed at the combine meeting with him. That was one of the reasons we were attracted to him. You know what I mean? I hadn't even watched the tape, and then I meet him for the first time. I'm like, I can get down with that, you know. And then you watch the tape and you see the skill set, and then you talk to him some more, and then you Zoom them, and then there's all these channels that go through Nick and Smitty and PT and Book and myself and Monty and Siri, and then you kind of come together, and it's like, do we want that in our building? Do we want that guy in our building? And when it's a resounding yes, well, then take him. You know what I mean? So, and that's all of our rookies, that's not just Max. But I love that everybody's a little bit different, you know what I mean? And I want those guys to be authentic. I want them to be who they are. You know, when we asked about guys talking, I love when guys talk, you know what I mean? Because I learn things when our players talk to the team. I love when they come in my office now at this hotel, like I see everybody walking by. It's like, guys, I'm a no shut door guy, but it's like I'm going to have to shut my door at some point because it's like all 90 are walking in, coming in, talking, you know what I mean? But that's cool. That's, you know what I mean? Because in some guys it's, hey, how you doing? Let's have a good day. Some guys it's like, hey, did you see rep 5 of team 2? Is that what you're looking for? You know, how can I improve that? It's like, pull it up. You know what I mean? I don't know. But that's awesome. That's the game, man. The players are the game. You know what I mean? It's the best part of the job as a player. So I never shy away from contact with the players or hearing them talk or having them be themselves. That's what we want.
Were you always like that? Like, did you
Say it
always
again?
have that policy when you were like a defensive coordinator, open door? Anybody can walk?
Yeah, I kind of always been like that, you know. No, because I've been around great coaches that have done it a lot of different ways. It's just kind of myself, probably. It's who I am, you know what I mean? So if I shut my door and could I get more work done in an hour? Probably, but that's not how I want to do it. So I want to make sure I'm connected with the players, you know.
Do they have to go by your door to get to where they're going, or they?
Most of them have to. Most of them, not all of them, because we're kind of spaced out in these casitas. I guess they are, maybe. It's really cool. I don't know, but it's a great. Like I said, it's a great setup. But most of them kind of got to roll through there. I'm kind of off the beaten path, and the coaches are kind of on one end, and I'm kind of out of the mix. But they when they need to see me, they know where to find me.
Back to Max, were you aware that he was under anesthesia for 8 hours?
No, I know he got inked up, but I didn't know he was under anesthesia. Good for him. That's a long time. It's a long time. I mean, shoot, I had my hip replaced. It took 45 minutes, so I don't. It's a lot. It's a big tattoo. Big tattoo. More power to him. If whatever he said about somebody said, did when you woke up, did it hurt? However he answered, I don't know how he answered it, but I will tell you this. I want to say from having experience going through it, it hurt. Trust me, it hurt him.
Having 9 players is a lot easier this year, having the names on the back of the jerseys now?
No, I love that by Schwim and his staff. You know, I truthfully, that detail I did not even know. When we got out there, I'm like, wow, that looks cool. That looks good. And the players appreciated it, so that's good.
Back to the quarterbacks for a moment. How do you evaluate how Desmond has been coming in his first season here, and obviously and Clayton in year 2?
Yeah, they've both been good. You know, I mean, Iz has done a good job with those guys. Hey, like they know it's a healthy competition. You know, that's going to be competitive for the 2-3 spot. Here's what you need to do to go, you know, be the number 2 and be ready to play and help us win games if needed, if your role changes. You know what I mean? So they've both, I'm looking forward to those two playing. And we kind of take it day by day with how we kind of structure who's going with what, you know, what groups, this and that. They'll both play with the 1s, 2s, and 3s, you know, because I want them to see what play with everybody. They'll know when they're going in, and then both of them will know when they're going in. Both of them won't know when they're going in. I'm going to throw them in because that's what could happen in a game. You know what I mean? You might know you're the starter going to the game, or you might not. It's the second quarter. Hey, you're in, dude. Let's see how you function. You know what I mean? So they've both been awesome. They're very mature, self-aware, consistent guys. You know, and I'm looking forward to it.
So many first and second year players on the roster. Are there specific ways, different ways that you coach this team as opposed to a more veteran heavy team that you've coached in the past?
Yeah, I would think you coach everybody in your own way to make sure that you're trying to develop that particular player. And that could be the same with a 2-year guy and an 8-year guy. It could be way different for a first-year guy and a second-year guy. It could be the exact same for 2 second-year guys. So I think the key to that is knowing your style, knowing how they learn, knowing what they respond to, and then adapting your style to that to get the most out of them. I think that's really what our job is as coaches. You know what I mean? So that's a really good question. Yeah, and I think a lot of times the structure is a little bit different too, how we do things with a younger team.
Has your style changed much from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah, I've adapted. Hopefully I've gotten better. I needed to get better, you know, so that's what I preach to the players. That's what I preach to the coaches. That's how I kind of live. Like if you ain't, somebody told me, Max said it, you're either getting worse or you're getting better. Like you ain't staying the same, so you better be getting better.
It seemed like there was an elevated sense of urgency yesterday, you know, compared to mini camp and OTAs and everything. Did you feel that?
I always feel that from our group because we got good guys that love to compete and love ball. That's the beauty of the roster construction right now. We have a lot of those guys. So I'm never too worried about the temperature walking onto the grass.
You got pretty passionate yesterday when you were talking about details.
Did I?
You got pretty passionate yesterday when you were talking about the details of the game. I'm curious as you had your path from a player to a coach, even in scouting.
I only played the 1 year and then I broke my hip, so not a huge, but a little bit, yeah.
When you become aware how important those details are,
Yeah.
and then communicating them to play.
I think where it hit me was, it probably didn't hit me as a player, you know, a redshirt freshman when I was my last game, 10th game of the year, but it hit me when I got into coaching, and it was eye-opening, truthfully. You know, and I'm like, man, I wish we always joke about it now, like what you know in your brain right now as a coach, like how much better of a player would you been? You know what I mean? Because you know, they don't know, you don't know all that when you're a player, you know. Not to say that we're all knowing, the players know more than I do, but I'm just saying, like, from just the standpoint of, you know, all the details that I probably was talking about, the better off you are knowing, the more you know, the better off you are. So as long as it's not jumbled and you can process and go. So, yeah, I think that, I don't know if I got too passionate about it, but I'm a believer in the details matter. You know, you can go one of two ways. Nothing matters or everything matters. Just got to know when to pick the one. But when you're in here, everything matters.
Is that the big challenge, communicating that to players so they understand how important it is?
Yeah, I think our guys know that. You know what I mean? And we coach it, but they understand that. You know, if they want to feed their families, they know the details matter.
One guy that's really into the details, it seems like, especially when he got drafted, was Darius Robinson, when he
Yeah.
talked about his
Yeah.
technique. When you get a guy with that skill set and that attention to detail and drive, how special can it be?
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. And again, just not Darius. I know he was on TV and said that, and Rallis was like, "Did you see that?" And I was like, "No, I didn't." I watched it. I was like, "Ooh, awesome, right?" But not just Darius, all our rookies. There's a reason they're obviously all different, but they all kind of are like that. Shimko, you should hear his routine. Yeah, you didn't even know who that was, did you, Bob? Unreal. Okay, yeah, that's right. You should talk to him about his routine. It will wow you. Like what? Unreal. But that's if you asked Tip, if you asked Elijah, you know what I mean? If you asked Xavier Weaver, like those guys, there's a fabric with what we want to do, with who we want to bring in. That's pretty consistent. They're all different. They all have different personalities, but they think differently, but they're alike in the sense that this is what I need to do. This is what matters to become the best person, the best player I can be. That's what you're looking for.
How hard or easy is it to weed that out from guys who aren't really paying the price for the position, as you said?
I think everyone has their own way. I think it's pretty easy, honestly. You're never going to be perfect, but I think that if you know what questions to ask, and I do think, I'm not a huge experience matters, but I do think experience going through the evaluation process and getting to know people, and the league's small, so there's a lot of guys that, you know, I trust. There's a lot of guys that other guys trust that they'll give you the right answer, and we give, you know, when they want our opinion, we'll give it to them too. But those guys, the cream rises to the top, and you figure out those guys pretty quick.
What are the types of details you focus on? When you say details, what are you talking about?
It's a lot. It's a lot. So like, you know, like practice today, like do we have it set up to be the most efficient in 105 minutes that we can? In individual coaches, do you have your drill set up in a way that maximizes what you're trying to get out of each drill? And does it relate to what's Drew calling today and the play and the route? And, oh, by the way, the different releases, you do this one, you got to work on this today, you got to work on another one. It's honestly, I would just ramble here. It's endless, truthfully. But that's the fun part of the game. You know what I mean? So those guys enjoy it, we enjoy it, but the details of what, you know, how I mark my script, that matters because it keeps me on point so I don't make a mistake, you know what I mean, and say something out of turn. So it's literally infinity, I would say. That's why I was, I guess, passionate, Howard, with the details, because you got to put, I tell the coaches all the time, the mistakes I've made with that, you got to put time on task, like a lot of time on task, to be on the details, and the players do as well.
Of stuff, management-wise, that you feel going into year two, you have a better sense of?
I think so, but I felt like we did a pretty good job of it last year too. But on a daily basis, you're going to adapt and adjust and learn and grow and get better. You know what I mean? So it's ever evolving every day. Tomorrow I'll be a little bit different than I was today. You know what I mean? So that's, I think, again, that's kind of the fun part of it. That's an ever. There's never going to be a time where you say, I got it.